Hi, this is Ed, and you're in San Diego downtown, and this is the convention area along the MLK Parkway, which is a walkway. And there's a beautiful children's park just to the other side of this little lake. It's not for swimming, it's just for show. And the convention center is uh, by those two towers that you see there in the distance. Those are the Hyatts. And right out of the picture here is the Hilton and the Marriott complex and a bunch of other fancy condos. This is beautiful downtown San Diego. Just held recently the Comic-Con convention. There were about 100,000, they say, um, for 4 days. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in San Diego reported that the amount of money spent was around $100 million by the convention and its participants. Pretty good. And so we're going to begin our broadcast now. We are recording. Our special guest, who you see, is Ron Cooper in the Washington, D.C. market, actually Maryland. And he's our featured speaker today. Dr. Ken Lloyd from LA will be joining us momentarily as well. Um, and I'm going to just check and see whether Ken has arrived yet. No, he hasn't. So we will begin and we will admit Ken momentarily. Let's welcome Ron Cooper, the Cooper Culture.
It is great to be back with you, your listeners, and Ken Lloyd when he comes up. But always good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I want to just say to the audience out there who may be just joining us for the first time that you and I have had uh, a contract, if you will, to present you across the weeks and months to come, talking about yourself, and not as a braggart, but as an excellence in management thinking and how you've worked to overcome challenges. We're joined by Dr. Ken Lloyd from LA. Welcome again, Ken.
Thank you. Nice to see both of you.
Yeah, welcome aboard. I was just explaining this is downtown San Diego by the convention center. The brown building is high-rise condos uh, called the Harbor Club, and those two other towers across the street are the Hyatt hotels. And then further down is a exclusive condo tower, and the developer called it Park Place. You recall the Monopoly game. And um, the guy who built that is still building here in downtown San Diego. At another time, we'll display some of the new construction going on. This past year and a half or so, and to this day and continuing, there's a building boom, redevelopment of city blocks behind me going to the east. Uh, the waterfront is already developed, but the blocks behind the waterfront are redeveloping right now at a rapid pace. There's actually billions had been invested into downtown. So the place has cranes, construction equipment, and a lot of construction equipment visible, and traffic is a mess, but it's a good place to be. So we're talking with Dr. Ken Lloyd, who's a well-known uh, organizational psychologist for businesses and author of many books, and formerly wrote a help column for business people that was syndicated by the New York Times. Many issues. Ken, welcome.
Thank you very much. Always great to see both of you.
Right. So to a theme of one of the themes of today with Ron Cooper is about himself and his life as a 26-year Air Force officer, flight squadron leader, the original, one of the original people in the Top Gun genre. In fact, the word is that the screenplay author of Top Gun used this man's approach and style and others in the Air Force as well as models for the Top Gun Tom Cruise character. Welcome. Welcome,
No,
Ron.
thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. Just so your listeners know, Tom Cruise did not consult me about the Top Gun movie, but as it turns out, there are a lot of similarities between us. And the character you saw Tom Cruise portray, Maverick and Goose and so forth, but no, a lot of that is, in fact, accurate. Obviously, a Hollywood play with some other things, but one of the things I do want to emphasize in this part of it, it's my life, but yet what I'm trying to portray with this is words matter and values that I picked up on, and I'm going to talk about an incident that occurred. I guess I was maybe 4 or 5 years into the military, and I'm not going to mention any names. It's not relevant at all. But as a part of our flight training, we were required to, or the goal was to accomplish various events in a 6 month period. And all of that was to remain current, proficient, and the like. As it turns out, the commander of the unit in which I was serving at the time had as his goal, he wanted everyone in his squadron to have completed or at least documented in 4 months rather than the 6 months the training requirements, because it just looked good that under his leadership all of the flight training requirements were accomplished within 4 months and not right up to the last minute. And I had a problem with that. That is that I was a member of a part of a wing, and the Air Force is organized by wings and then squadrons within those wings. I was functioning at the wing headquarters level and was assigned to a squadron. And the squadron commander asked me to document events within the first 4 months. And I commented to him that, well, I haven't accomplished those, but I will by the end of the 6 month training period. And he said, no, Ron, I want for you to document all of your requirements in the first 4 months. And I said, sir, I can't. Now, he was a lieutenant colonel, I was a captain, and so there's that rank structure difference. And I said, sir, that is a lack of integrity for me to say that I accomplished something before I actually did it. And he said, there's no problem with that. You will document these requirements within the 6 month period. I want you to do it within the first 4 months. And even if you haven't yet, you can complete the requirement in the remaining 2 months. I said, sir, I just can't do that. And he said, well, Ron, if you feel that way, I'm going to reassign you to another squadron. Now, as it turns out, those of us who were at the wing level were assigned to a squadron, and this wing had 3 different squadrons. And so, as it turns out, I was reassigned to another squadron. Now, why, as I think back on it, why would I be willing as a captain to tell this lieutenant colonel, no, I cannot violate my integrity to document requirements that would be future requirements, but documented as having been completed right now. And as I think back on it, I can think back to a telephone call. We were, I'm going to guess, I'm maybe 5, 7 years old. And we are at the breakfast table, and a person calls my uncle's house. And I, at the time, of course, did not know who it was. This call came in at, we'll just say 6:30 a.m. or something like that. As I learned later, It was a salesperson who wanted to talk with my uncle about something. The details are not terribly important. My uncle was listening to this person for a few minutes, and then my uncle said, I tell you what, I don't want to see you on my property. If you do happen to come onto my property, make certain you bring a doctor along with you, because that doctor will have to surgically remove my foot from your rear end. And he hung up the phone right at that point. And I thought, oh my, there's enough. Let's say he did not shout. He raised his voice a little bit in volume, but not a lot. But he spoke with a resolve. And I took from that, and I didn't dare ask him who was that, what was that about. But I can say, oh gosh, that would have been 50. No. By then, I don't know, 3 decades later or so. I remembered that, and my uncle was ostensibly saying, you do not deceive me or anybody in my family. We don't deal with that. You tell me straight up what it is you want, but we don't lie to each other. And so, as I think back, what was it that allowed me, or was the foundational principle, to be able to tell this lieutenant colonel, I will not lie about and document future requirements, because I had not yet actually performed those. And I felt very confident in telling him, no, I will not. And I was, in fact, reassigned to another squadron. As it turns out, I didn't tell anyone about it, but it became known amongst a few people. And a few people told me they had learned about it, and they applauded me for doing what I did to have the courage to do that. Ed and Ken, I'm telling you that to say, in the context that words matter. I mentioned early on in other broadcasts that words matter in the context of people saying different things that caused me to be very insecure. But in this context, words matter. What my uncle said and did had profound impact on me. And years later, as I progressed through life, and four men that I've already spoken about had a very positive impact on me, and it manifested itself in this one incident that I stood up to the lieutenant colonel and I said, no, I will not document future requirements, because that violates my integrity, and I said your integrity. I haven't accomplished those items. And he said right then, if you don't do this, I'm going to have you reassigned to another squadron, which it did happen. And but I will tell you, Ken and Ed, that was a moment that even now I think back on. Golly, I don't know, it's 5 decades ago maybe. And again, I have no desire to brag on it. It was a choice I made, but I could not violate what I believe to be the principle of integrity by doing something that was not right. I'll relay one other incident. When I was in Vietnam, the Vietnam War was not prosecuted very well at all. There are a whole lot of things that were not right. But one of the things that we were told, the commanding officer at the time said, do not drop ordnance on targets until and unless they fire at you. And so there are many people who violated that principle, but a letter came down specifying that these are the rules. Make sure you comply with what's being said, and annotate that you read and you comply with what is being said in the letter before, I believe the date was the 25th day of that month. Well, I saw the letter. It came to the squadron maybe a week after the due date. And we were told, a person said, just backdate your signature on this letter, which had to do with integrity. That do as I tell you. And I did not backdate the letter. Again, my integrity said, no, I did not see this letter until the date that I signed it. As it turns out, nothing happened. But I just thought how ironic that people would say backdate this letter where you're authorized, or you're saying you read about integrity and the like. And so I'm telling you that, Ken and Ed, to say that words matter. That in one case, early on in my life, I was very, very insecure. But then, in the context of that one phone call, my uncle, that no, integrity matters, and stand up to those principles. Even though in this case there was a little bit of a price to pay, but I feel that in the context of that words matter, my uncle was somewhat quiet and reserved, but yet he spoke with a resolve. That resolve of that phone call stayed with me, and it became a guiding principle for me. Somewhat of a long story, but I will tell you that in the context that words matter, what we say with resolve, when it is positive and it reflects a very notable positive, that core value, there are others who will be inspired by that. And I want to encourage our listeners to stand on those core principles. And I think between the three of us, we likely agree with this general principle, but there's some other people that say, well, yeah, that sounds good, but when put to the test, maybe I wouldn't be able to follow through with anything like that. So, Ed and Ken, any thoughts you have? I'm certainly entertain any follow-on thoughts.
That's quite a story. So, do you think that in the original context, uh, when your superior officer basically ordered you to do something and you say, no, I'm not going to do it, do you imagine at all, in the context of storytelling here, that you were just being simply tested at that time and you thought that, no, I I'm going to show that I've got backbone and I have principles. And I would think that the U.S. military, the Air Force, would honor that.
You know, it's possible, Ed, I was being tested, but the other aspect of this is the commander said, if you don't do as I tell you, I will have you reassigned. And so I thought then that, all right, do whatever you think you have to do, but my guiding principle is I will not violate my core principle of integrity. And so testing, I don't know, but I will say that one or two other people learned of the situation. I was transferred to another squadron. I didn't say anything to anybody about it. That I certainly did not want to put this senior officer in a bad position. I made the decision I did. He made the decision he did. And so we each went on about another day. So I guess that's somewhat of a simplified answer, Ed.
Ken?
Yeah, absolutely agree that words matter. I like the idea of looking back at some of the behaviors and comments and suggestions and actions that were taken by significant older adults in our life. And as you were talking, it reminded me of what happened last night. Looking at the news with my wife, and I see that some 40 people were conned out of hundreds of thousands of dollars because a neighbor of theirs, a person they knew that seemed quite credible and believable, and probably like the person that called your uncle on the phone, and had an idea for them to buy new BMWs. He presented himself apparently as some leader in BMW and said, I can get you a brand new $135,000, $125,000 car for $13,500. Just pay me the $13,500. And these folks did. And of course, they ended up with nothing except losing their money. And ultimately, this person was captured. It reminded me, and I said this to my wife, this goes right back to what my great grandmother said to all of us when we were growing up. She was a wise woman. She lived in Gold Hill, Nevada in the 1800s during the gold rush, and ultimately would merge between Gold Hill and San Francisco. And one of her words of wisdom was, never pay less for anything than you think it's worth. And by golly, if these folks simply had that, you wouldn't touch it. It's just If it seems like it's worth a lot more than this, be careful because something else is up. So going back to what Ron is saying, that words do matter. Here are just a few words from her that have been with me my entire life. My children know them, my grandchildren know them. And that kind of wisdom is so important to use as part of who we are, our backbone, impacting us on making decisions. Ron, you picked up the wise advice and behavior from your uncle. It's internalized, it's part of who you are. And whether you're being tested or not, gosh darn it, I'm not going to take the bait on this and do something that's against my ethics, my values, my standards. I know what this is as part of me, and that's what we live by. So these words of wisdom that have been imparted to us from generations gone by really help us define who we are, and frankly go on to help define our children and their children from there. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and Ken, what you just said is very important, and it's certainly right on target. And for leaders listening, watching, I want to do everything I can to encourage you to have these standards, but then what are you doing to inspire these standards to have your employees, your family, live by these standards? Not just say it's a plaque on the wall and, yep, I believe in it and so forth, but if you were ever put to the test, would you stand up for and possibly pay whatever consequences come from a decision that, no, I will not violate my basic principles? There are times we might have to make a decision that, yes, my superior said, but my core value is, and the two of those are incongruent with each other, and I will have to make a decision. And the decision I make might necessarily have cost me to have to find another company or some other consequence like that. But I just want to encourage our listeners to say that in the long term, and yes, you may sense some stomach churning and so forth by standing on principle, knowing it's going to cost you something. In the long run, I promise you, you will be glad you stood on your core principles and you did not give up. And you move forward on that, and that is a legacy. And another way of saying it, that that is a branding statement. You will be known for those type things, and I believe that is the higher good, the higher standard that we should all represent.
Life lessons. Wow.
But I do think, Ed, that there are going to be various times, and quite honestly, without, I'm not trying to make any ideological statement here at all, but our country, I heard the United States, is being faced with some decisions. Then we have to make a choice, and so some of those choices may be ideologically based. Some of those choices might be based on core values, but we have to choose a road to take. And I'm not suggesting at all that we cast other people aside who don't align with whatever choice we make, but I would hope that whatever choice we decide to make, we can just stand on that choice to saying, I did what I did because, and the reason you made the choice is because it is based on core values. And it doesn't mean that we cast other people aside necessarily, but it does mean that we stand on those core values.
How do you think young people, Gen Z or even younger, will respond to that?
You know, Ed, I'm very interested in knowing how they will. It seems some Gen Zs are saying that, yes, I do want to, and I do live by core values, but there's some Gen Zs, my experience is they want a quick solution, and they're not necessarily going to rely on a baby boomer's input. that they tell us that the times are different. Okay, one major difference: artificial intelligence. And we're mentoring a college student right now who got a failing grade because he submitted a paper that did not pass the AI test, and he hoped it would, but he acknowledged that some of that paper was written through artificial intelligence. And so now it's a matter of integrity. So intelligence, I mean, let's say artificial intelligence is one of the factors we're dealing with. Did you in fact write that article, or did someone else do it and you just put your name to it? And so those are some of the maybe recent technology situations we're up against, Ed. But I don't know. I'm very interested. Gen Zs. What are your thoughts about the decision I made and the general concept of core values?
Okay.
Yeah, I think as Gen Zs continue to learn and grow and experience and hopefully kind of get off of their cell phones and any other media that they're gathering their information from and interacting more with people and learn more from those around them face to face, not just looking at a screen, that will help. I also, at the same time, don't like to cast all Gen Zs in the same box because, frankly, some of them are quite well connected and understand the importance of values and standing up for what's truly right and correct. But I think the human interaction is the key part of it. If you had simply seen your uncle's behavior on a screen and heard about it and all, it would not have been as relevant. You were there, you experienced it, and you were open and receptive to it. And that's really part of it as well. To recognize that in this life, it's a learning process every single day, whether we're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, or where we are now in this game. We need to be continuously learning, or we're going to be obsolete and make some very bad decisions. And the same applies obviously for Gen Z and the millennials. They're interested in feedback. We know they are. They're interested in career development. Importantly, it can come from us. And it's not as if, oh, here it's just coming from some boomer, but to hear it, not to say do this or do that, but experience-based, just like the story you told. Stories are far more memorable. They're visual, they're captivating, and they tend to stick with people. If we want the younger folks to understand some of the values we're talking about, instead of just saying, you got to be honest, forthright, upright, fair, legit. Here's the situation, here's something that might interest you. Here's what happened to me when I experienced X. That will stay with them. So the kind of information you're providing today, Ron, is very helpful to all generations. But stories work. And it's an important way to help impart the values that we're talking about.
No, I think you're right on, Ken. And for me personally, nothing will replace, there's no screen that will replace your integrity that's in action at the moment. And that is, let's just say I have a Gen Z with me and we're at a store location. And one incident that has occurred is that the cashier mentally determine the amount of change I need rather than having the cash register make the determination. And she gave me more money, a $10 bill that was extra. She mentally didn't do the arithmetic correctly. I knew there was an error. And so I just said, no, you miscalculated. And here's the $10. And so I could have walked away, and very possibly that cashier wouldn't have known until the end of the day, whatever accounting they go through, that she's $10 or some amount short in whatever the store policy is, whether she would have had to made it up or not. But I knew right then that there was a miscalculation. So It was not a decision, not a difficult decision for me at all. I knew she had made an error. I'm not trying to point out that you made an error, but no, here's the $10. And within a few seconds, everything was corrected and I walked away. But if the Gen Z had been right there with me, they would have seen that in person and they process that however they're going to process it.
And that's the kind of thing afterwards you feel so much better and you see the smile on that person's face. You did something good. And that's so rewarding in life to help someone. You prevented this person. I agree. She might have had to come up with the $10 herself. And it's not just a story where you say, hey, you know, if someone gives you more change than you deserve, you should give it back to them. This is an actual incident. You can picture it. You picture the cash register. You can picture the whole thing going on. I'll tell you, can I tell you one funny story?
Please.
My grandmother was a volunteer up in San Francisco, one of the hospitals. Very, very smart. She would do all the change in her head and she would just give back change. She was volunteering in the gift shop. And the manager came and said to her, Ella, you know, it's better if you count out the change for the people instead of just doing it all in your head. She said, look, if you don't like how I'm doing it, cut my pay. She was such a character and so funny, but that was it. Just do it all in her head. And her favorite sport, here's my grandmother, her favorite activity, she'd come over, your grandmother comes over, she would bring a cake for all of us after dinner, we'd play poker with her. That was, you know, just a
So she
real
could do all the stuff in her head.
spirit. Yeah, and all of it in her head. You got that right. But it's fun. Again, stories, and they really stick with you.
So, was that a theme from one or more of your syndicated columns?
Actually, in some cases, yes, because those columns also would reflect my values. And where do those come from? But from the experience and learning from the significant others in our life. So in that way, definitely yes.
Interesting. Wow. Basically, I'm speechless here. I don't know what to do. Run.
No, Ed, it's just that these are just some of the principles that leaders, I believe, need to live by. And it doesn't matter what your age is, my opinion. These values are timeless and they need to be instilled in those we lead. And as I'll never lie to you, we've talked about it before, I'll never denigrate you in any differences we have from perspective or whatever it is. I want the freedom to discuss that with you, and we can discuss any differences and maybe I will never sway you to believe as I do, which is not my purpose, but I just want you to know the facts. Hopefully they're facts on which I base decisions, my values, and so forth. And it's your choice whether you ascribe to those facts and values or not. But what I don't want to do is go off onto some emotional tangent and espouse something strictly because of my emotions. I rather would have them based on facts. And so, and I do know that many people will say, well, your facts are different from my facts and so forth. And so I'm going to try to go right to the source the best I can. And so, and I fully realize some people are going to have opinions based on whatever it is they read. And so we may or may not differ on that. But again, Ed, I've said it before, let's make sure that we're able to go to the table and eat together and not leave as enemies of each other at any time.
Well said. Well said. Ken, are you working on a new book?
Actually, yes. Why not?
Is it chapter 3 of?
Well, I keep saying as long, it's so funny. As long as I'm not working on chapter 11, it's fine with me. You know, so yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy the process. Enjoy the writing. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But you know, you never know if you do this kind of writing. You also have to be prepared for perhaps some negative feedback or rejection, or gee, this is not the right time, the right this, the right that. Okay, you know, that's part of life. And I've got lots of stuff I've written that's sitting in a file cabinet here or somewhere buried in my computer. That's okay. You know, I'll keep going. And get back on the horse, literally and figuratively, when I was a kid, and now it's just get back and do it, and not be turned away, turned down, all depressed. But okay, I move on, or take the suggestions and see if you can build it. I just got some feedback on another thing that I had written, and I said it's great feedback. I did a rewrite and just sent it back, and we'll see what happens. That's okay. And the person was right. It's some really good ideas. I'm open to that. And again, that's part of this whole learning thing. I don't have all the answers. Never pretended that I did. And even if I write a column and someone write back, I think your approach on this could also have been or should have been, and I'll see how they write it, how they write their feedback, and then go from there. Again, trying to learn from those around us, learn from what Ron said today for listeners that are and viewers that are watching this. These are opportunities to learn and grow, and we make decisions to think back on them. And then they become kind of embedded in us. Don't even have to think about the uncle's phone call. It's there. It's part of who Ron is. These are his values. A man, a person of integrity, period. And that line's not going to be crossed, no matter what might be in it. Hey, here's a way to make a quick $1 million. Nope, not interested. Not doing it.
Ken, let me ask you a question, if I may. You being LA based with an ear to the ground regarding economic development in Palisades. In other words, rebuilding, and it's a mess, I know, but um, what what do you see happening there? Is there progress? And then I also want to ask you if you have any view on the changes going on within Paramount, uh, especially with the merger, and the buyout, and how that's impacting people, because they have announced massive layoffs, and at the same time, they're breathing new life with new money into the company and restructuring things. So they need people. So are those people going to be AI people, or are they going to be real live people?
Yeah, well, looking first at the Palisades, uh, from what I read and from what I hear from people, friends who live out there, and what's going on, it's going very slowly. A good number are simply moving out. You certainly see that happening out in Altadena as well, just leaving. There is concern over the way in which the decontamination process has been handled. Some believe that it's not been thorough enough, forgetting about the speed at which it was done, that there are areas and parts around the homes that were not adequately cleaned up. So you've got all this particulate in the air and in the ground. The children are supposed to go out in the backyard and play. It's going very slowly. This is so many years out. It's very disappointing. We have friends who, for example, whose home was not burned down, but every aspect of the house had to be redone because of smoke damage and only, again, the particulate flowing through everything. That meant the carpets, the furniture, the walls, the heating, the air conditioning, the vents, all of it, the painting. And still outside, it's not in shape. So yeah, it's a slow, it's an arduous and very unpleasant and very sad process. I did see that the kids out there are going to be going for high school at a converted Sears building, Sears Roebuck, which is now being used as a high school. And talk about resilience that these young people have. And you listen to them, you go, wow, take my hat off to you. Their whole lives, community, friendships, family, all disrupted, but by golly, they're getting in there and hunkering down and just very impressed. And they deserve more recognition and thanks and feedback for what they're going through as children to experience this. You think, you hope for some stability during those years. Between COVID and now, the high school is gone, it's burned down. So going to a Sears store for classes, and they're doing it. They're stepping up. So in terms of Paramount, to me, it's kind of a work in progress. I have no idea how that's gonna play out. You read the different things that have gone on, and what they paid in terms of the lawsuit with the president. I think we just have to see how it plays out. Will this be a big AI replacement? We know that's it's on the map and even occurring. in Hollywood in terms of all sorts of aspects of the work that's being done. But to me, I'm looking at that really as an observer and, with concern, but I don't want to pass judgment until I see more of what's really going on there. Ron, do you have any feeling on that, on the Paramount situation?
I am not well versed in the Paramount situation, but I can say just conceptually, it seems, Ken, a lot of people are going to have to go through a lot of emotional changes because the house burned, the schools burned, and so forth. Just a lot of transformation that will necessarily have to occur. And some people might be forced into making some very difficult decisions, whether they relocate out of the state or just relocate somewhere else within the state, whether they wait for the time. Just a lot of decisions that will have to be made. A lot of people will be impacted, it seems, long term because of this. And so a lot of adjustments will have to be made. And I'm just grateful that we have that amount of stability in our life. Right now we're not having to go through that, but I'm not being unsympathetic with those that are going through it. We can all learn from what those others are experiencing.
We still have signs up in this neighborhood saying, "Thank you, first responders." I mean, the fire department, the police were amazing in terms of what they did. Their questions were adequately provided with equipment. Why was the reservoir in the Palisades empty? But still, these first responders, what they did was miraculous to get in and really risk their lives helping this community. Absolutely amazing. Deserve.
Yeah, and I'll say from here I am on the East Coast, a world away from where you are talking about, that I would hope that people learn from this. Any mistakes that were made, and I'm not here to highlight any mistakes at all, but I think through anything and everything, we can always learn. And so as we do learn processes, any legislative matters, any of that, we can learn through this and help advance the maybe any cause. When I say advance a cause, preventative of any of these kind of things that created this. And then should the fire, over which maybe we don't have a whole lot of control, but yet the rebuild, possibly the legislative matters and so forth, we may have more control over items such as that.
Well, interesting. Ron, thank you for being on the program and for talking about such personal things. And yet these are lessons, life lessons.
No, they are life lessons, Ed. And as we lead others, there are principles that, for me personally, are timeless, whether you're a Gen Z, a boomer, or anywhere in between. That I think there are some of those principles that are timeless. And we need to know exactly what those core values are and be able to adapt to those who may think just a little different than the way we do.
Yeah. Ken, thanks for doing it.
Once again, Ron, has great information. Always wonderful to hear from you. And when I think of what you've done and what you've accomplished, and I think of being a pilot, piloting a jet, what that takes in terms of
the intensity.
Oh my God, the intensity, the
yeah.
intelligence, the decision making, the confidence to be up there, the responsibilities to yourself, to people on the ground, to your crew, to this country. It's really something, and what you've done and the path you've taken has just been remarkable. And to me, it's you're still flying, my friend. You are still flying. Whether it's not, I don't know if you're still flying physically, but you are, and you're flying in your career, and you're helping the crew around you and everybody else. And we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Ken. I appreciate everything you said. I appreciate your life and everything that you have lived, and we continue to live. We grow together, and so it is all good.
One last thing, if I may, Ron. What comes to mind is the recent B-2 adventure and missions. And pilots were flying for hours and hours. So they must have shifted,
Yes.
changed. Yeah.
And I am not a B-2 pilot, so I don't know the cockpit, but I can tell you they clearly have an augmented crew. 37 hours airborne. They had to refuel. And they either switched seats, but they had to develop their own crew rest time. And so even while you're airborne for 37 hours, you wake up, you have a routine between you, and quite honestly, it is crew coordination. And Ed, Ken, it's a topic that obviously they had it worked out. It worked just great. There was obviously not a time where the two of them fell asleep inadvertently. No, it's a matter of discipline. And when it's my turn to fly the airplane, I am fully awake. You now need to do whatever you need to do to get your rest so that when it's your time to take over, you wake up, you go through whatever stretching, whatever it is you need to go through, and you take over the controls while I take my time to rest, which is going to be, who knows, 8 hours or whatever it is. But it's crew coordination. And I will tell you, Ed and Ken, that's a part of the military discipline. I mean, how in the world do you stay up for 37 continuous hours? You've got to refuel, you've got to time your crew rest, and we cannot land this airplane. That cannot happen and accomplish the mission. So all of this was worked out.
And so that was worked out through heavy training over a period of time. That
Yes,
this
and
event was, it was never, I don't think of this, I can't imagine this event being planned a year in advance or months in advance, but the training goes on about how to do that kind of thing. And that builds, I would assume, the trust factor between you guys.
it is, and the military trains all the time. And there are those, well, the B-2, along with any other B series aircraft, is built for long range. And you do whatever you have to do to be able to accomplish the mission, stay airborne for whatever time it takes. Yes, it's all a matter of discipline, it is training, and select crews are selected for that yep, we believe that you can do this, and we believe you are mentally and physically fit to be able to do all of this. I can tell you that just in the F4, where we flew trans-Pacific, transatlantic very frequently, we would eat a low residue diet, in residue in every context, but you you do whatever you have to do to remain airborne. And quite honestly, I don't know what toilet facilities are in the B-2. I can tell you with 100% certainty, we did not have any toilet facilities in the F-4. And so you do whatever you have to do to endure the amount of time it's going to be until you're on the ground.
Now that's a story.
Well, I will tell you, Ken, that I have learned to have a 14-hour bladder. I have never used the bathroom of a commercial airliner because I knew that there are other stories behind this, but I never had to unzip my flight suit while I was airborne for 14 hours. You hold it in, you endure it, you do whatever you have to do, and so that's another story.
Oh, and with that, I think we'll close the show and go on our merry ways.
All right,
Now,
Ken and
now
Ed,
that we
thank you
can.
all so much.
Hey, guys, thanks.
Thank
Terrific
you.
once again, Ron. Thank you so much. Ed,
Thank
thank
you.
Stay
Be
tuned
well,
for the
guys.
next chapter, guys.
Here we go.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.